Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. We finally got the Kimber R7 Mako, and this is the one with the factory red dot. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Manta sacks and Core belts. You'll find a link that you can sign up for Big Daddy Unlimited. They actually have things in stock and usually at a lower price than other places. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. Thank you. So what you're looking at right here is exactly the way it comes out of the box. So you can get it either with or without the red dot. If you get it without the red dot, it is still optics ready. There'd be a plate here and you could add it later. It'll take the CTS 1500 that you see on it right here from Crimson Trace, or any of the Shield RMSC pattern red dots. But getting it right from the factory out of the box is convenient. It's nice, and it's all part of the same warranty. So there's been a lot of buzz about this gun because Kimber is typically known for 1911 style guns, metal frame 1911s, and highly stylized. You know, they make some really pretty guns. Then they got into the revolver arena, and then they decided to get into the polymer pistol arena, and their entry is into that micro-compact high-capacity realm. So this holds 11 rounds in its flush magazine, which is labeled 10, but it will take the 11th round. And it holds 13 rounds in its extended magazine. Now, you're immediately going to say, no, you're wrong. Look at Kimber's website, it says 12 and 14, and it does. What they're doing is they're quoting the one in the pipe. Now, they're actually being truthful. Technically, it's truthful, but it's a little misleading because every other manufacturer out there quotes it as magazine plus 1. So they quote the actual physical capacity of the magazine, and then if they want to talk about that extra round for the one in the pipe, they'll say plus 1. So they are kind of telling truthful numbers, but in a way that kind of confuses things. It's kind of like quoting gross horsepower on an engine when everybody else is quoting wheel horsepower. They did that in a couple places with this gun, but their facts are actually truthful. You just have to know the context behind it. So this gun, as you see it sit here, has an MSRP of $799, which is also kind of a departure for Kimber. They tend to have commas in their numbers. They make fancier, higher-end, really kind of stylized guns. And $799 is actually a decent price, though, for coming with a factory red dot. And that's, of course, MSRP. You probably can get it less than that as things come out. And then $599 for the version that is without that red dot, just the optics ready. There is no non-optics ready version of this. Both versions are optics ready. The question is whether or not it comes with it. And yeah, I know they do make some $600 territory guns, but that's not their mainstream. They tend to be a little on the higher end. Overall, this is a decent gun. It comes with Tritium Pro sights, so they got the ring around them, and then a Tritium vial, so they're true night sights, both front and rear. They are 3-dot Glock pattern sights, so you could replace these with any sights that'll fit a Glock. And you can see that 5 MOA dot. Now, keep in mind the dot's not that big and fat and ugly. It's actually a very nice, crisp dot. Cameras don't like red dots. They always completely blow out the dots. It is actually a very usable red dot. They do have it where you can co-witness through the red dot. But one thing I did tend to find is because that front sight is not a fiber optic, it's just tritium, it tends to gray out. So when I tried to use the sights and tried to ignore the red dot, the dot was always there, kind of much brighter than the sight, and kind of made it a little confusing. But the advantage there would be if the red dot did entirely fail, of course at that point the dot wouldn't be in your way. The sights are fully functional. Most of the shooting I did with it, I tended to use the red dot because it's right there, kind of up in front in your face, so it really wants you to use the red dot. This is still inside of that micro-compact high-capacity realm, but kind of up at the upper edge of it. So it's 6.2 inches long, which is a little bit long for that range, but still inside of it. With the flush mag, it's 4.3 inches tall, top to bottom, and it's 1 inch thick. So it's not a big gun, but it is a little big for that category. It weighs 19.5 ounces with an empty mag. However, without a mag, no mag whatsoever. However, most manufacturers do quote it with an empty mag. And it's 22.7 ounces with an empty mag, and add 0.2 ounces as you put the little cover on it. And by the way, that 4.3 is to the top of the slide, so that would be if not including the height of the optic, because of course you could put varying different size optics on it. Overall, it does fit that category, but it's a little closer to the size of, let's say, the Shield Plus than it would be closer to the Hellcat, which is what this is really kind of trying to compete with. It does have nice stippling all over the place. It's kind of end to end. So where do you want to put your finger? Well, there's stippling all up through here, all the way around it, the front strap, the back strap, and there are no replaceable back straps. And then across to the other side. And you can also see there's an ambi slide stop slide release, which does work, and an ambi mag release. So it's got all of the features that the modern guns are coming with, and they all do work. A couple of things were asked about this. One is this 1911, this style, older design 1911 style ejection port. According to their materials, it's to prevent debris and gases and oils from getting up into the red dot. Kind of might be a solution looking for a problem. I've got other Optics Ready guns that have the standard cutout across the top and have never had that problem with them. So the two questions that come up with this, is it going to eject reliably? The answer is yes, it did. And the other question that's going to come up is, what about shooting it left-handed with a thumbs forward grip? So we were asked to do that, and I tried to do it. I couldn't get myself to actually do it. When I hold it that way, and it's going to be kind of hard to do it on camera, my thumb's up there too close for me to be comfortable. I couldn't make myself do it, so I did tuck my thumbs down. So when you see the footage that I'll put in a few seconds, it's going to be with my thumbs tucked down, mainly because I kind of like the skin, the way it looks on the top of my knuckle, and I kind of want it to stay there. But the video will show what the ejection pattern looks like and whether or not you and the size of your hands would be comfortable putting them out there. Let's talk about the trigger for a second. So we'll reset this, move these magazines out of the way. It does have a flatty style trigger with a little hook at the bottom and the inertial safety that you're finding on most modern striker guns. It disappears nicely. Now, in their marketing materials, they call this the Performance Carry Trigger, and they talk about it being very smooth and crisp. Well, it is crisp. It does have a nice crisp break, but it's not all that smooth. Not only do you hear that, but you feel it. It's gritty. It's a fairly short take-up, almost non-existent take-up, and then a little bit of creep, and then a nice crisp break. Gritty on the out. The reset is almost all the way out. Now, the overall trigger travel itself is short to start with, so it is a decent reset. I'll do that again and actually do the reset. There's the reset, and your little bit of take-up or that little bit of creep in the break, and then an actual crisp break at the end of the creep. Overall, I was a little disappointed in the trigger. It's not a hideous trigger, but other than being relatively short travel, it's overall not as good as most of the other triggers, even in this category. A little bit of gritty, and even when I was letting it out to use the reset, the grit is there on the outs, going out on the out travel, so it makes it a little difficult to line up. Now, one thing I did like is that it was fairly light, comes in about 4.5 pounds. They state that it's 5 to 6, but we're observing about 4.5 pounds on this. So it's a nice light trigger. If the grit could be cleaned up a little bit, I think it could move from an okay trigger to a really nice trigger, especially when you consider the short travel. So that might be something that people look at doing a polish job or whatever. But as it sits, the trigger is just okay, all factors considered. A few other features before we move into taking it down. There are no serrations on the front of the trigger guard like a lot of guns have these days. And though there are these little notches that theoretically could be used for some type of accessory, there's not actually a rail. So any accessories that are going to fit this are going to be very specific to this particular design. There's kind of a cutout, it's on both sides. Overall, it's more going to be the optic on the top is really what they're targeting. But if you wanted to put a laser on this, you'd have to get one that was designed to work with that particular setup. Show you the front and the muzzle. And on the sights, just for clarity, the front sight is screwed from underneath, so it is removable. It's not molded into the frame. It's a Glock pattern, so that's the same way that Glocks tend to work. So you can easily replace these sights. There's front and rear serrations, you can see here. And It's well designed. It's got most of the features. I think there's some people that would prefer there to be serrations here up front. And there is a nice undercut. So I'm going to put a magazine in it so you can see the grip on it. With the flush magazine, I get 2-finger grip. And it's actually a full 2-finger grip, right up to the edge there. And the magazines do eject fairly forcefully, so they're going to drop free. Now if you put the flush mag in, the extended mag in, I get about a 2.5-finger grip. But you'll see it does contour nicely, it does blend right in, and it's contoured at the back to fit into your hand well. So it's well designed. And on a gun like this, that's probably going to be good enough to get a good solid grip on it, either with the extended magazine or the flush. Disassembly of this is actually not that difficult. It looks like it's going to come down like a Glock. It almost does. So just like a Glock, you pull back on it a little bit, but it's kind of hard to find a place to grab it. But you pull back just a hair and pull these little levers down. And they're a little difficult to get. Then you push it forward and it just falls apart. And that's by design. That's the way it's designed to come apart. So instead of sliding it all the way off. Now I did have to pull the trigger, which I had previously done while demonstrating it. Internally, it is well machined, which is typical of Kimber. They tend to do things well. Pull up the captive recoil spring. It's a single wafer style recoil spring. The barrel is 3.37 inches long. It is well machined. And one thing that they mention is that the locking lugs are near the back of it. And the design of it is to improve the feeding and also reduce felt recoil. I didn't notice a real recoil difference. It's kind of a unique ramp, but since it's going to tilt more aggressively, it may help with the feeding. This worked perfectly. Round 1 to we were done. It did function, but most of these guns in this category do. As far as felt recoil, I didn't notice a significant difference in recoil with this versus any of the others, so I don't know how much difference that actually truly makes. And then I'll light up the inside of the barrel. You'll see it is conventional rifling. It's nice, clean, distinct rifling, so it's well manufactured. And then, without the barrel in place, I can show you the rest of the internals. And the drop safety piston is over here, right there, where my finger is right in that area right there. And in the frame, there's a little protrusion that activates it. So it does have all the drop safeties that all the modern striker guns have. A little bit busy in the fire control group area. Here's the rails at the back and the rails at the front. They're not overly large, but they're big enough and they're solid steel. And then the pivot for the barrel. And you'll notice it's got kind of a little bit of a puff to it here at the middle. It's kind of looks like it's deformed. It's not. That's the design of it. And as you can see, it does have the ambi slide stop slide release. One thing I do notice is it seems to take a little more effort to operate the right-hand one than to operate the left-hand one. So something in the pivot is causing the force to be a little different, but they do both work. It's just not quite as smooth on the one versus the other. I don't know if it's enough to make a difference in the ability to use it, but it is a difference that I noticed. Putting it back together is relatively easy. Drop the barrel in. Drop the recoil spring in. Make sure you get it centered, which I don't have it centered at the moment. And then you line up the slide in the frame, kind of push it down a little bit, and then pull it back. And it should auto reset those two tabs. If it doesn't, you have to push them up. So once you get the hang of it, and of course I'm doing it in the wrong angle for me to do it easily. I'm trying to do it for the camera. If you have it turned towards you, it's even easier. But it is easy to live with. So it's not like you're going to have to maintain a 1911 style gun. So I'm going to put the flush mag back into it, and I'm going to just do a quick comparison. Full comparisons we'll have later. But I have a shield with the, or I'm sorry, a Hellcat with the shield red dot on it. This is available just like this from Springfield. And I have a Shield Plus, and this one does not have an optic. And what you'll see is the Kimber is closer to the size of the Shield, just a hair longer. It is a little bit shorter than the Shield. I'm sorry. Now at this point, I can't really show it easily this way. because I've got to line the slides up. It's sitting on the red dot. But you'll see it is, when you line up the sights and ignore the red dot, it's just a hair shorter than the M&P, but not much. It's almost exact. And it's a little bit heavier than the M&P. Now when I go do the Springfield is noticeably shorter in the slide. And from a grip height perspective, I'm going to try to do this the other way, line them up this way. You'll see that the Kimber is a little bit taller in the grip, not drastically. So the Kimber is a little bit on the big side for this category of gun, but not so big that it's going to make a difference in your ability to carry it. You should have no problem carrying this, concealing it, dropping it into a pocket. If you're looking for the absolute smallest of these high-capacity micro compacts, this isn't the gun. But if you just want something in that territory, this would be a viable choice. One other quick thing that had been asked when we did the first look is, how do you turn the red dot on? Well, you don't. It's just on. But these Crimson Trace red dots have a very, very long battery life. So, and if you do have to change it, there's 2 screws. You take it off, the battery goes in from underneath. Overall, I think this is a good entry in the market. I wish they would kind of clean up the grid on the trigger a little bit. I think that's the only thing that separates this from being decent gun to being actually a very good gun. And of course, if you don't like the Crimson Trace, there's other options available. You know, get the one without the Crimson Trace, the Optics Ready, and put the dot of your choice on it. But the Crimson Trace makes good optics, and it comes right from the factory that way, ready to go. So it's kind of a good choice if you're going to want to have an optic on it. Beyond that, I did enjoy shooting it. It was reliable, and it would make a good choice for that concealed carry. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, kind of everywhere. And thank you.
The reason why these are meant to penetrate, it's only going to hit the wall, it's not going to pass the boundary. In a self-defense situation, you're in a restaurant, house, you got people over penetrate. You might hit it. It's not intended. It's happened a lot in the past, people get in trouble. What you want to carry, pull back on it. Okay? Pick that gun up. How about that right up? They're going to land just like that. Drop the trigger. You don't want to put your finger until you're on target.